Welcome to another episode in the 7th season of Dialogues with Creators, a twice-monthly podcast that seeks to interview creative people in various walks of life and work. While a good portion of our guests are writers of poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, and screenplays, many others are musicians, visual artists, educators, or entrepreneurs in profit or nonprofit realms. Today we will speak with, and actually I will plan to sit back and let our guests do most of the talking, someone I have recently come in contact with indirectly through our mutual publisher, Vicki McIntyre of Colorful Crow Publishing in Calhoun, Georgia. This guest is Tulasi Acharya, a novelist and memoirist, but that doesn't begin to explain who he is. Stay tuned. Tulasi Acharya, thank you for joining me today. I have been looking forward to this since I learned about you. I want you to tell your story because it's got to be interesting. As it's obvious, your name isn't a typical American name because you're from Nepal. So could you start by telling us about your childhood and your beginnings?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, I'm originally from Nepal, as you pointed that out. And my name is sort of unique in its own way because, Tulasi in literal sense, like literally speaking, it's basil. That's the name of a plant, a religious plant in Hindu culture. Basically, it has in Hindu mythology, Brinda, one of the, religious character, cursed Vishnu, who disguised himself as her husband, Brinda's husband, and deceived her. And that's why she cursed him. And then she said, you must be basil, the plant.
Oh,
Although it has that sort of a connotation, it has nothing to do with that. But it's just, I'm trying to, define what my name and what sort of meaning that my name does have.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was, around 4, flood swept away our land, and that's how, that's why we had to migrate to the south when I was 4, as I said. And then my parents had to work on the farm as sharecroppers because we didn't have any land. So they worked very hard, growing vegetables and crops of many kinds on the land. The first time the land was very barren. They had to, rear cattle and use their manure, for the fertility of the land as well. And I went to the countryside government school. I had to go to the school, on barefoot. I didn't have, we could not afford, to buy any flip-flops or any shoes, things like that. I, put on like season past of clothes. The roads were an hour away, from where we lived. So at that time, I cannot even imagine, I could not even think at that time that, if we could make it out of the poverty, So, but my parents had sort of a, big dream, sending me schools, and they always wanted me to be a medical doctor. Actually, at that time, everyone wanted their children to be a doctor. I don't know. This is a sort of a, the how society, view it, I guess. So maybe one of the reasons could be my mother was always ill. She had an issue one after another. Perhaps that also could be one of the reasons. And we didn't have a hospital nearby. That also could be one of the trigger points for them to think of their children to be a doctor in the future, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so that's how I started going to school. And then I, finished my 10th grade. As soon as I finished my 10th grade, which is also called school living certificate, the sort of a grade. And then after we finished that 10th grade, then we would get into the intermediate level, or college level, I would say. and I major in English and math. And then I sort of started teaching. As soon as I finished my 10th grade, I started teaching kindergarten kids, and until I finished my undergraduates, and then we moved to I moved to the capital city of Nepal, Kathmandu, to further my studies for my master's in English literature. So yeah, that is sort of a very basic summary of my childhood.
So, how did you get to the United States, and why did you pick Georgia?
Oh yeah. The thing is, when I finished my after I finished my master's degree in English literature, I started teaching at a few colleges there. I had no plan of going out of the country, since being only one son. I mean, I have we are three siblings, like two two of my sisters, and I am the first child. In Nepalese culture, basically, parents expect their the son to be around the house, and then be around the family and taking care of the parents and things like that. But I realized everyone, is, going out of the country to further his studies. And one of my friends who had, gone to America when I was in Nepal on a diversity visa. And then he always wanted me to, hey, come to the US to further the studies, and I'm here, I will support you. And he just, kept insisting on me about that. And he played a very instrumental role in my life, basically, to make it, to make it to America, especially to further my studies. So what I did is that I prepare, for IELTS exam. That is a kind of, the English test, and then I looked for a different program, especially the English writing program that I was more interested in. Since I finished my master's degree in English literature, I always wanted to get into the program that would help me to be a writer, or maybe something to do with the writing that I was interested in. And all of a sudden, when I was looking up, I browsed a couple of the websites of a few universities, and I found Kansas State University is the one that offer professional writing program. And I like that program sort of, and also on top of that, I found the sort of a program they offer, and I was interested in. Also, the tuition fee was not that high, and the requirements also matched my skills and qualifications. So I thought that's the best the university for me to apply to. And then I applied to it, and they accepted me into the program, and they sent me sort of the documents, the paperwork for me to show up at the visa center in Kathmandu. And then I got a visa, a student visa, and that's how I made it to Georgia. So yeah.
Okay. So you finished that program at Kennesaw. I've known some other people that did that program, but then you also your academic background. You have kind of two different fields that because you also earned a degree in public administration, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And where'd you go for that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a sort of a coincidence, I would say. Sometimes, it is not your choice, and you have also no options. I really wanted to get into the English creative writing program, even if I wanted to, I wanted to get into that PhD English program. But this is what had happened, because, I, as a student, because I was on a student visa, so I had to be on a status. Either I had to find a job or have to, find a status. So because I didn't find a job as soon as I finished my master's degree in professional writing here, from Kansas State University, and then I happened to, enroll in a different program. But I went to Florida Atlantic University, where I did my another master's in women's studies and public administration. The reason was that I had, many of my friends from Nepal were there. So that is one of the reason why I wanted to, apply to the program, at that, university. And as soon as I finished, another master's in women's studies, I wanted to get into the, in the English program, a PhD in English program. They didn't have sort of a PhD in English as such that I was looking for, and some suggested, hey, this public administration is also a good program for you to get into. Why don't you try? I think one of my friends suggested I do that, and I also look at the program. And also at the same time, if I continue with my PhD at the same university, then I will not also be losing my friends that are around me. That is one of the reason. And another reason is that I always wanted to have a PhD no matter what. Perhaps, my parents wanted to see me, being a doctor, a medical doctor. But if it is not a medical doctor, at least it will be something like academic PhD doctor, right? Yeah, that is another reason why I want to do a PhD. But no matter what programs that I kind of was in, I always wanted to do something that has many things in common with my interest. Like, I like to write, and I want to do some sort of a creative writing thing. So even if I did my PhD, in public administrations, my PhD dissertation has, had something to do with, the writing. For example, I looked at the poetry and fictions and nonfictions by the writers, in Nepal, women writers in Nepal, the women writers with disability, in Nepal. So after I went through their writings, I tried to reflect on their lived experiences and then what sort of, and then I kind of went back to the disability policy. So I wanted to see what sort of a policy, the disability policy gaps that we see between what the writers talk about their own lived experiences versus what the policies talk about, So that is also sort of a, creative aspect to look into. So even if the program looks entirely different, I feel like I'm still there. It's still within the writing field, it's still within the writing area. So that's
okay. That's interesting. You were able to combine the writing, the creative writing, the literature aspect with the doctorate in public administration. That's very interesting. That's neat when you can do that. Some people get into doctoral programs and they hate their subjects. I've known a lot of people like that. It's just they never want to study it again. But so. So you teach in public administration, right?
Yeah, I sort of teach both basically. I teach public leadership courses plus the professional writing courses, English courses as well. Yeah.
And this is at South Georgia State College.
Yeah, South Georgia State College.
Okay. So what city do you live in?
I live in basically, that the college is in Douglas, which is, up north from here, but south from here. But I'm right now in Canada because I do commerce. I live in Canada though.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Canada probably has a little bit more going on than South Georgia. So you've been able to find a community of Nepalese people here?
Well, yes.
Excellent.
Because we have many Nepali, people around, here in Georgia, and they have, many businesses, and they are also affiliated with many, different Nepalese organizations. And they are also in many professions, teaching, businessmen, teacher, professors, and then also we have a Nepalese community here in Georgia that organize different Nepali cultural programs. They also observe, the festivals and rituals. Sometimes, they make us feel like home. But I myself also worked as a, vice president of this International Nepali Literary Society Georgia chapter the last 2 years. My tenure has been over now. But I'm not very active, because of my job and this writing and research projects that I'm involved in. But, once in a blue moon, I happen to, see Nepali people around, especially in the special occasions. So yeah.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, I would imagine, especially in an area near Atlanta, there would be a lot of. It's a very international place.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who live in Georgia, especially like where I live, don't realize how international Atlanta really is.
Yeah.
So, you earned a Master of Fine Arts from Georgia College and State University, correct?
Actually, I'm graduating this year.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm graduating this year because I was in the creative writing program at University of New Hampshire in 2019, and I was, writing my dissertation while doing my PhD.
Yeah.
So I had plenty of time to, kind of work on it. So that's why I thought, hey, why not to, continue with my creative writing while I'm doing my dissertation. So that is how, I was in the program. I was almost halfway through. But as soon as I finished my PhD and I got a job here at the college. So that's why I kind of quit that program for the time being. And then that kind of resurfaced all of a sudden. Hey, I was already halfway, through in the program. So why not to complete it? And I reached out to Georgia College and the State University, last year. Hey, I have already a sort of a sudden, the classes already completed from a different university. Would you help me transferring those classes and getting it done from your college? And they're like, okay, that's fine. So basically, I'm working on my thesis, which is a novel with very well-known authors at the moment. So I'm graduating this year. So yeah.
Okay. So can I ask, is the one you're working on is not the one that is going to be published?
This is a memoir that I had written, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
So this is entirely a fiction that I'm working on as part of thesis. College, yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to read either of your of those. So talking about that, what do you think of MFA programs and your experience in that? Do you think you already had a lot of background in professional writing and in two languages, to say the least. So do you think the MFA program has been valuable to you?
I think it is definitely a valuable, program, because, although you can be a great writer without getting a degree, it is a matter of your hard work and writing practices, basically. Even if you have a degree and then you do not have the habit of reading and writing and, working hard, then, you can never be a good writer. But the thing is that, the program basically, will equip you sort of with the, immediate skills a writer needs to have,
Mm-hmm.
And also you have the opportunity, to meet with very well accomplished authors, even professors and other award-winning writers. And you will have the opportunity to share their to listen to their insights as well. So basically, this helps you, it gives you the platform, to have a sort of a very insightful conversations about creative writing as well, and which will definitely help you hone your skills of writing. And also, as I said, it introduces you to great authors and their writing, which helps you to better your own writing as well. And also, helps you to understand the significance of reading and writing as well. And most importantly, workshop, workshop, which all workshop may not be beneficial, but, you have an at least idea that how things work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also that will be sort of an enlightenment, and that's the way the program works. But again, we didn't have the MFA program in the past, but we still had great talents, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think an MFA degree in both is like a kind of, is acquiring knowledge also, and also qualification. And everything is getting and becoming very complex and competitive. So I think the program will definitely bring some great values so far, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I can see that. Yeah. That it would be, definitely have some advantages, through the networking, through the workshopping, through the connections you can get, and just, being immersed in that kind of a mindset. And yeah. So your first novel was Running from the Dreamland. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my understanding is you wrote it in 2 languages. Is that right? It exists in English as well as Nepalese?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's just like, I can't even imagine writing in 2 languages. I mean, I know enough Spanish to get by. My daughter-in-law is Hispanic, so I've kept up with my Spanish, but I cannot write anything, like literary with it. And that would be something wholly different. But so tell us about Running from the Dreamland.
Yeah, I mean, this is my sort of, the hybrid publication, I would say, working with the publisher because this was my debut novel and, I was, sort of a nowhere. I mean, I didn't even know, whether I really wrote it, good enough to be a novel because I wrote this novel when I didn't even know, quite enough that, what, good novel would look like. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But this is a sort of an outcome of my capstone project in my professional writing program at Kansas State University. So it's sort of a thesis. Anthony Grooms. I don't know whether you know.
Oh, yes. Yes. I was reading, I read his newsletter and I've met him. Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because he was my thesis guide. He guided me on that project. So he was my advisor. So basically, in this novel, the main character, is originally from Nepal and who comes to the US to further, his studies and undergoes a lot of his struggles and trials and tribulations as he continues to, fight for his, the future. So he goes through cultural differences and sort of a failure in relationship also, so on. So the way the story begins is, Deepak, the main character, doesn't know why Melissa, his girlfriend here in the US, who promised to show up in his graduation, the other day never shows up. So this brings in a whole story and the reason is revealed at the end of the novel that Deepak could hardly imagine. So that is sort of a lesson for him as well. So this is an immigrant story and mostly the story of an international student who has a different perspective on Americans and of America as a dreamland and the meaning of which will change may change over time as well. And so basically the main characters of the novel resonates well with me, the author as well. So, however, this story aims to represent the story of many immigrants, especially international students out there who may or may not make their future or fortune in this country. So it is also the story of basically knowing about each other's culture. So that is what I can tell about from the
Yeah. I was just looking at the title, Running from the Dreamland. I think most people, especially Americans, would say, well, weren't you running to the Dreamland? But I can see where Running from the Dreamland could be just as or more apt of a title. And so you also have it in your first language as well.
Yeah. So originally in English and then later.
Okay.
It got translated into Nepali and got it published in Nepal. So yeah.
Did you translate it?
Yes, I did it. I did it.
Okay. Yeah. So I just have to. I know of another professor. I think she teaches at Georgia College and State University. And and she was one of the finalists for the Townsend Prize, and I have forgotten her name, and I'm sorry.
Sika Unidwe?
Yeah. Yes.
He's looking at my, the current thesis. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And she writes in Dutch and English.
Yeah.
And I think she's Nigerian too. So so I'm like, how in the world do you write in 2 or 3 different languages?
Yeah, that's
amazing.
I had asked her that question before, and I was also amazed about.
Yeah. Yeah, too. I mean, Dutch is more like English, I imagine, than Nigerian. But, I've been to the Netherlands, so I've had a little experience with that. But it's very much like German, too. But it's still very, it's different. And then with Nepalese, it's a different script, Yeah. It's not the same alphabet. And so that's just amazing. What do you see? Is it hard? I mean, bilinguality always fascinates me anyway. But, English is going to be so different from an Asian language and just the whole way it sees the world, I guess. So how do you transition back and forth, or is that not even an issue for you? Yeah. When did you start learning English? When did you start speaking English?
Actually, formally I started speaking English when I basically started doing my master's in English literature while in Nepal. But also that was remained only in class, though outside the classroom. Then again, you get back to your own, the native tongue.
Yeah.
So I would say my real English speaking began when I came to the US. But again, I had practiced speaking English, way before that, though. So that is not that would not be a problem. But yeah, this is not easy. It's a very good question you ask. And also it is not, easy switching language, between, Nepali to English or, vice versa or whatever language, between two different languages. And especially English and Nepali, they feel just the opposite, language they do not match at all, Right. Each language does have its own grammar, but the way grammar works in English is not exactly the way it works in Nepali, and also the syntax,
Yeah.
So, for example, we do not have an article as such, and in English we have an article, right?
Right.
So that's why. But although in the very underlying structure, there is still some sort of the sort of underlying structure is basically what we find many things in common, though speaking, very philosophically. But but however, what happens is that to me, this writing in two languages is sort of unique. The way I experience is like it, one language informs another, So certain words in English do not exist in Nepali,
right.
and vice versa. So, for example, if I want to say a word, sort of a onomatopoeia like Garalam Gurlung, it's a Nepali word. And if you want to, say this word in English, I cannot. I really can't say that. And so that means, this, even if I sort of, explain it and give you a footnote and describe it, and it cannot carry that sort of emotion that I grew up, speaking that particular language, right? So that's why language carries emotions and our cultures and lived experiences. So the one word in Nepali, may carry a powerful meaning, but its exact translation to English may be weak, right? And the same applies, and even the, explanation through your footnote cannot carry the same weight. So we can be very close to its meaning, but, may fail to represent it 100%. So usually I write in Nepali and translate it in English, and sometimes, other times I write it in English and translate it into Nepali. So I do the both ways. So, for example, as I say, Running from the Dreamland, it was originally written in English, and then I later translated it into, Nepali. And also, the type of language that you write in also forces you to think of the audience, and you tend to, organize your, the sentence structures and the syntax, and also the, the diction, the choice of words. Things like that, and which is not easy. It is challenging and also fun at the same time, So again, no matter what language, I write in, I think it is sort of a translation. I feel that since I write in both languages, because, I'm thinking, both ways, and again, as you already pointed it out, that, English and Nepali are not like Hindi and Nepali or Spanish and English.
Yes. Yeah.
So they are like, at times I feel like it's carrying entirely two different emotions, two different
right
feelings.
Yes.
So as a writer, writing in both languages, this is also an experience of in-betweenness sometimes, It is sort of the trying to explore myself and sorting out where I do exist sometimes, So, but again, it is an enriching experience at the same time. So yeah,
That's fascinating. Even though Spanish and English are going to be 90% similar. There's enough differences that I can get the sense of I'm thinking differently in Spanish than when I am in English. How you approach the world. So you write in the memoir genre, but also the novelist genre. How do you see those as different or similar?
That's a sort of a tough question. You see, I kind of work on all kinds of genre, basically. I'm in an academia, so I have published a couple of academic books, and at the same time, my, writing career basically began with writing poetry that I have not even published a single, book on that for now, but I'm working on it at the moment. But lately I've been focusing more on fiction and nonfiction. So that is a very good question and also challenging. To me personally, based on my own experiences of writing, I think memoir is something that, comes from your memory of lived experiences. I think people and places and time, I think, are very important in a memoir. I think even in fiction that, they are very important. But again, I don't know. I mean, based on the memoir which is coming out by the end of this year, I think based on that, I find that, what happened, how did it happen? Who did you meet? How did it influence or change your life, your perspective, your insight, or the lesson you learned? I think those questions are basically addressed in a memoir. I mean, that's how I feel it, right?
Okay.
So these are very important in a memoir for me. So these, although these elements somehow appear in novels, but memory is, I think, more about reflection and memory rather than creating sticks, as we do in novel. I think we also have sticks in memoir too, but I think even if we don't have, readers won't lose patience because they know that, this is a memoir. So, but if it is a novel, then you have to have that sort of a, stake. Even, for example, even in your novel Kotela, the main character, is constantly put at his stake, so which helps keep the reader engaged, because we as readers want to keep turning the pages, and that's what we are kind of thinking of when we write a fiction, or you may call it even, my novel Running from the Dreamland. There the reader, when they read a prologue, may want to know why Melissa did not show up at the graduation as promised, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a trigger point is always, there in the novel, which kind of helps reader to flip through the pages. So, such things exactly may or may not happen in a memoir, but, if those elements are missing in fiction, as I said, the readers, may lose interest. Mm-hmm. But again, the both genre, should somewhat reflect on, the character experiences, and which is, I think, most important. It's a very, very important thing, the experiences, mm-hmm. But if it is a memoir, the reader always has a sort of a preconceived notion, the idea that, hey, it is not a fiction, but it's real life events or experience. So they read it to learn about the events, time, people, places, and the characters. Uh-huh. So, as I say, since I'm an academician, and I kind of write in all kinds of genre. Even now, half of my, the half a dozen of manuscripts are basically already currently halfway through. I'm working on that simultaneously. Some of them are sort of a, research-oriented book. Some of them are poetry. So most likely, I think, after these books comes out, maybe I will be working on most possibly the fiction that I pointed out that I'm currently working on is one of my thesis, and also possibly a collection of the short stories and a book of poetry too. So that is the plan. You asked me about my future plan about writing, I guess. So I think I plan to have in sort of the academic, work completed as sort of the book that I'm kind of working on, which is sort of academic and also philosophical somehow. So which I have started working on, and in a couple of years down the road, that's the book that I will be working on. But currently, beside this memoir, I think the fiction, which is what I'll be working on.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, Colorful Crow, you are publishing a memoir with them. So talk about that. It has a beautiful title.
Yeah, I mean, this is the memoir that we are still, the title we are still working on.
Okay.
But hopefully, I think this is the title which is likely, it's going to be the final so far, I think, but we are not 100% sure yet. But I think I also, love the title. People ask me that. And so, yeah, this is a memoir, especially, about my wife losing her parents, and then because she lost her parents like in 5 months apart, or 5 months after she lost her mother, which was very unexpected and unthinkable. And she died, my mother-in-law died very young, basically, due to heart attack, and there was an issue with her father quite for a long time. And that's how, the importance of son in the family is very, very important, especially when these things happen in Nepalese culture. But they didn't have any brothers. And then as their son-in-law, I had to be, by her side and support her and comfort her. And when we had, just 1 year, 2-year-old daughter, I guess, I think the first year child. And then I was in Nepal just to celebrate the moment. I had recently gotten a job at a college, and I was there to celebrate, those things. But all of a sudden, after a week or so, that thing happened. And then, all my plan was completely gone upside down. So I had to, take care of her. I had to even take care of her, father, take him to different hospitals. And I got directly involved and played a very, important role there to support the family. And then what it is to be like, in being in the family where they don't have son, and then the wife, loses both of her parents and goes through a lot of, sort of let's say mental crises and all sort of things. I think this memo revolves around that area. And what happened is that 1 year, I think during that time, after her mother died, immediately after her mother died, within after 2 or 3 months, the corona pandemic, the COVID with the whole world. And that became another issue, even to facilitate and help them also. There was curfew imposed and all kind of stuff. The lockdown was there because of that pandemic. And then I had to go through all that challenges and cope with all the difficulties. And while I had a 1-year-old child to look after at the same time. So this revolves around that. It's on life and death, and at the same time reflecting on this fragile, the fragility of life, and the family relationship, and bringing the culture into play. If this event had happened in a different location or in different culture, what difference would it make? Right. Mm-hmm. So these things have been, I think, unraveled, and I have tried my best to, bring that, the experiences, my personal experiences, and also the reflections and how family, went through that and things like that. Yeah.
Oh. How fascinating. Okay. I didn't know that was where that book was going. I thought it was more about the immigrant experience, but you've already written about that. So this is more about your family and culture. Yeah. And how, but at the same time, how the external things like COVID, have come into it. And I wonder, in the future, how many things there will be about COVID written because it was so disruptive, I mean, my book was about a pandemic, and I wrote it during or towards the end of COVID, but really thought about was how much worse that particular disease was in 1918 than COVID, although COVID was very, very bad, of course. But yeah. So, okay, how did you find out about Colorful Crow? Because it's not very big.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. It's just hasn't been around very long.
Yeah. Actually, I was signed up with a literary agent, and she was looking for a publisher. Also, in the meantime, but I don't know. It was taking a while, and I had recently found another publisher as well, and then before that, Mandy. I met with Mandy last year.
Cantrell?
Yes, Andrew Mantrell, and she has been a good friend of mine.
Oh,
and and then I got a book from them. They kind of published a volume called, I think that's a literary journal. The name is
yes,
yeah. And then I got that copy with me, and then I was flipping through the pages, reading a story and things like that. And one of the story was written by Dicky, McIntyre. And then I didn't like that. And then I look at her bio and I saw that, she is the owner of this Colorful Crow publishing company. And I was like, I was right there. I was kind of working with the literary agent, about to find a publisher as well. But as soon as I found the publisher, I reached out to Vicky about that, and it took a month or two, basically. I didn't hear anything from her. And I thought, since I found a publisher, maybe I should, email her and let her know that, that I found a publisher. So do not bother with reading my, the draft. That's what I, just told her, email her. And then I think she was reading during that time. And that's why she immediately got back to me. I just finished reading your work. And then, I like it very much, but I'm very open if you still would like to work with me. And I thought, hey, it doesn't hurt to, communicate with her, and then, okay, can we talk? And then on the phone, and then that's how she called me, and then we communicate, we talk. And I mean, even it's a small press, I felt so, like as a publisher, I never ever had, directly talked with publisher before. I, got published, with, Bloomsbury. I mean, that's a part of Roman, not a part of it. It's been Roman and Littlefield has been a part of now Bloomsbury, and also, published with, the Routledge and other few, publishers out there. But I never had the opportunity to speak with the publishers like, so closely. And see, I found her very, caring about the author, and, how she would deal with the author, how she would work, how she would bring the book, to the market, things like that. And that really impressed me. And this is something I'm looking for, because these days everything is globalized. We have so many online markets. So I think if I really find a good publisher out there and very, taking care of author, then I think that would be the best, platform or the best person to work with. That's how, my heart said. And so I kind of rather, I decided to go with her. I asked her to give me a, few hours to think of it. And then I got back to her, hey, maybe I would definitely like to go with you now then. Okay. So this is how we kind of...
yeah. That's a wonderful story. I've had a lot of fun working with her. I'm a little, I guess you're here in Kennesaw, it's not as bad, but I live closer to her. And so it's a little bit easier. And I knew her before she owned the company. So someone else actually started it.
Yeah, and she's great too. And she's really great. We have had, I think, 2 or 3 meetings by now. And then she's very thorough, and she also come up with the idea that, hey, this is the way we can do things, right. Or maybe if you have other, insights, let me know, how we can, work on it. I think this is a very sharing and caring sort of, the demeanor, so which is what I loved about her. So, yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Mm.
So we've talked about what you're working on in the next year or so, and I have just enjoyed talking to you today. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not really. I think you ask, great questions, and thank you for this opportunity to share things about me and bringing my voices out there. So I really do appreciate that, and also I really enjoyed reading your novel. It's so wonderful. I love to see you in person one day.
Okay. The same to you. I hope that I can work that out. I've been a little bit. I just retired from 47 years of teaching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm just getting used to retirement for the last 2 weeks. And hopefully I will be able to start going to maybe more conferences and being around other writers more. Than my job was pretty involving. I was an administrator, so as well as a teacher. So
and then this time now it will give you a lot of plenty of time to work on your own writing and be out there in sort of the conferences. But enjoy retirement and be even more creative and fruitful. I love to reading your upcoming works.
I appreciate it. And folks who've been listening today, our guest is Tulasi Acharya. And I don't think that in this short time we've been able to put in all the breadth of his gifts and roles. But I think that this should be enough for you to get his book, Running from the Dreamland, and then follow him and get his works he's working on right now. So thank you for being with us today, Tulasi.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
I so appreciate his time to speak with us. I also appreciate Colored Book Crow Publishing for adding diverse voices to those who are being published. I have been doing this podcast since April 2022. I would sincerely invite you to go back and listen to the archive, even from the beginning. All of them are worth listening to, but a few I would point you to. Luke Manjay, where we talk about his book, Ginseng Diggers. David Cady, where we talk about his book, Religion of Fear, which blew me away. KB Ballantyne, who reads her beautiful poetry. Erin Mortera, who started a music school for children of immigrants in Greensboro, North Carolina. Noah Knox Marshall, an old friend of mine and a filmmaker you want to know about. Amanda Haley, an archaeologist. Well, I could go on, and I've probably already offended someone by not including them. You will be surprised by names in the archive. Ray Atkins, Renee Winchester, the John C. Campbell Folk School, Jerry Dry, Brian Reese, and many more. And sometimes I go solo, which I'll be doing a few times this summer. Also, if you have anyone you would like to hear, please let me know through my website, which is listed on the show notes. This podcast is a labor of love. I really need listeners to post this to their social media feeds and websites. That would really help. I am grateful for every listener, just like I'm grateful for every reader of one of my books. There's so much content out there that you don't have to listen or read me necessarily. I hope I provide voices that enrich your understanding of the arts, creativity, and the community. If you wish to help with costs for this nonprofit work, there is a GoFundMe link on the show notes. As always, thanks to Clemencia Villafuerte, our brilliant producer who makes us sound good. Finally, I hope you will check out my books, especially Lying In, Sudden Future, Bringing Back Abundance, and The Long Lost Mysteries.